Bender's.
So later on was Bender's store. And Melly used to, 2 times a day or 3 times a day, he'd go down to the store and bring the uptown mail up to Sam Eby's store. And he'd put it in the slots up there for the people in the upper end of town. And what do you think he got paid for a week? 15 cents a week. Now Melly came from there to be a multimillionaire. He had just bequeathed upwards of $1 million to the Chickies
Church.
United Methodist Church. And that's where he started, 15 cents a week. But Melly never did anything, he didn't make money.
You know, later on, Joe Bender he looked like Abe Lincoln. He used to take the mail and drop it off at our house on the way out.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other houses he did, but every morning he'd get up and go to work at Bender's. He'd deliver mail up through the main street.
When my dad had the garage there where John Cooper is now, Melly, over where all the junk is stored, Melly had his used car lot. You know, he has used cars in there. And he'd trade a car in that was missing or something. He'd come over in the garage and find an old spark plug and sandblast it and take it over and put it in, and and the car would run all right. I can remember Dad. He used to raise Cain about that. Yeah. He used to come over and never pay enough for these. The old spark plugs. The spark plug cleaner was always a bunch of spark plugs on it.
Used ones.
Yeah, and Melly would use a sandblaster and clean one up, and he had the car light. You remember when he sold cars on the other side there?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I'll tell you,
that's when I first remember Melly, when he had that used car like that.
Up until his probably dying day, he used to come into the barber shop and he'd say, "Boy, I found a place where it's a real good eats and don't cost too much." He could have bought the restaurant.
Yeah. He could have bought the whole town.
That's right. Oh, Jesus. Now, of course, you remember Elias Hunberger?
Yep.
Okay, Elias Hunberger built my cabinets in the barber shop, the ones that are natural wood. He was just an ordinary carpenter, but he built those cabinets, and he could have been a cabinet maker. He was that good a wood butcher.
Did he do that on the side? Huh? Did he do that on the side?
Well, yeah, he was a carpenter. They built homes. They built, like Jake Musser's place where Bush Young lives. He and Ben Caskey, they were carpenters back in those days. Maybe they worked for Harry Griner or some builder, But Harry Hunberger worked for Bars of Well Drillers. And Elias Hunberger got the idea to buy a driller for his son. And that's where Snipe get in the well drilling business.
Now, let's back up here to Elias Hunberger. When I said I remember him, I remember his name. Now, was he a Mennonite religion?
Yeah.
He was?
Yeah.
Okay. I run across something that when we remodeled the house out there, the brick mason that was there, he complained about these damn Mennonite brick. Now, the brick on these houses have a special color, all of their own, and they're about 1/4 inch bigger all the way around. There's nothing made today that will equal what those Mennonite brick are. Now, do you think he built that house for William Cooper?
Well, he probably could have built it or helped to build it, no doubt, at that particular time. You know what year that was built?
Well, it had to be in the teens or early 20s.
I would think it'd be in the 20s.
There was about 3 homes in Salonga that are like that. Musser's there, and
which Musser's?
where Frank Musser along Main Street.
Oh.
They were all built out of Mennonite brick. Now, I traced the brickyard where these bricks were made Nisley's wife, Wadler.
Over
Okay.
the farm.
Yeah. You know that whole area goes from Church Street up in. Now there was a brickyard up in there. Do you remember that?
No.
This was Jay Risser just bought the
Gall farm.
The Gall farm. Okay,
Uh-huh.
it was back in there someplace. There was a brickyard, and this is supposedly the way I come up with. This is where the guy made the Mennonite brick, because he was a Mennonite for himself. He was a Mennonite himself, and then he made the brickyard for his brethren in the church.
You don't know what the name was?
Nope, I can't tell you. But I know that you get some of the old timers, and they'll really swear about Mennonite brick because they won't. There's nothing can equal to them. You know, you put a modern day brick up to it, and it's a quarter of an inch difference, and then you never can get the same color. And they're a color all of their own.
Come out of a certain quarry.
Yeah.
Well, now, which Frank Musser's house do you mean in Landisville?
No, over here in Slunga.
Right here where...
Right alongside Jerry Davis. Right alongside Jerry Davis. The brick home there alongside.
Oh, that's a new one then.
Yeah. Well, it's it built in the 20s. I would think that's when he built it.
Perhaps I didn't know it was that long ago. I didn't see that long ago.
And I'm trying to think of where the other house is in town.
You're talking about Amos Musser, not Frank.
Okay, Amos Musser. Yeah.
Frank lived in the corner there.
Yeah. Okay, Amos Musser. I got that.
And then
Well,
Frank,
weren't them houses built till the 20s?
which ones?
The ones you're talking about.
I didn't think it was that long. It could be.
Because this house was built in 1897.
1897.
This house right here, yep.
Yeah, it had to be built. It had to be built after the railroad. The railroad went out of town in 1893. It was started to go where it was.
Straighten out.
So this house had to be built after the railroad.
Yeah, up in the attic, there's a rafter that says 1897 or 1896 on it.
Is that right? Well, yeah, the railroad went right through here for a while.
Yeah.
Where the siding came out.
Yeah, well, they figured it was a station right next door here because when they cleaned out to build this house over there, found a great big concrete slab right across the alley. They figured it was the Slunga station was right there.
Well, now the original station in Slunga, what I come up with in the maps, was in back of what we call the Nisley warehouse, which is Colonial Shoe.
Yeah, that's where the station was.
Okay, the station was in back of that.
It had to be something
Down a little farther from the
Yeah,
warehouse.
yeah. You'd have to go back
There
Railroad
was
Street,
still a
just turn
station.
right and go
Yeah,
down.
I remember the station
Yeah.
very well. Now, did you ever know down across from the Landisville, Pennsylvania Railroad Station, there was a hotel?
No.
Called the Benjamin Hotel. I remember that. I remember when they tore it down.
Well, the Laswell station was out there in the
Well,
Reading Railroad
it's between,
Company.
it's in a catty corner between the Reading and the Pensy. There. The Reading station was up this way a little bit toward Harrisburg Pike, and the tar where
Was
Nod Harmon worked was on the southwest intersection of the railroad, and the station was on the southeast intersection.
Yeah, I remember the station was there.
well, I remember going on a grocer's picnic to Landisville and getting on the train. The
Yeah.
grocer's
Yep.
picnic
Oh,
would
yeah.
stop
Oh, yeah.
and get on
We
there and
could
come
get
back.
on a train at Landisville.
But you used to have to cross the tracks and.
Now, you know
come
where
back
the
up.
station was before it was down back of a building of separate by itself. And that had to be after the railroad was built up where it is now, because they had a baggage station there where Mim Wagner lives now,
In Salonga.
in the side of that house. That was owned by the railroad, you know.
Yeah.
And they had a baggage section there. The side door where a windy is now.
I can't believe I remember that. But
Was
they
it-
only did freight there. They didn't do passengers.
No, it was like a passenger or like a baggage
Yeah.
baggage section, you know.
But the passengers never got off and on in Salonga.
Down at the other station they did here.
Salonga.
Yeah.
When you straighten this railroad out,
No passengers.
that's
go
what
up
I'm talking about, the railroad station that is straight. If they had a baggage place where Mim lives now, it had to be when they straightened the railroad out.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
And there was a station in Salonga for passengers to get off and on.
I think at one time there was. I can remember when they stopped at Salunga and Lanesville.
No, I know. That's what I'm just
Different
trying to ask
trains,
you.
you know.
I don't even know where the station was, though.
Yeah. Well, the station was down where Joe says, down below the warehouse there.
No, I didn't know that.
When they
I don't-
when they straightened the railroad out, or they took the railroad out of town, is
Yeah.
when they destroyed the station, and then that's when they went up to where you're talking about with Mims and.
But did they have passengers getting
I
on and off
I
and
don't
on
know.
there?
I know that they
Well,
had.
that's what I'm trying to find
yeah,
out.
I don't know. That I couldn't tell you.
Because I wasn't around when they straightened the railroad out.
No, that was a little bit before her time.
Well, that was around the turn of the century.
1893 they started.
1893.
Is that when it started?
Yeah, that's when they started. But that took a couple years to get that whole
Well, I
thing.
think the church has a date on it, 1907. The Methodist Church.
Well, the church had to be built before
Yeah,
that
the church had to
Because
be
they-
built.
because they moved the church.
Yeah,
to
the
do
church
the
had to be
railroad.
built in the early 1890s.
Did you ever see a sign in the church?
No,
I think I might be mistaken.
because I
But
know
I thought
in
it
that
did.
Pennsylvania bicentennial book, it tells you about moving the church
Yeah.
to build the railroad. And it tells you about building the church across from Evie's store. It's all in there.
Wonder how they moved it in them days.
I don't know.
Same way they probably moved the toll house with a few more. Yeah, had some more,
Maybe
few
they-
more teams.
Maybe they tore it down and rebuilt it back in them days.
Might be. It'd be interesting to
Well,
know.
now you got to remember now that was that railroad. That was prior to that railroad bank being there, where the bridge is now. You know, that was all level land.
That's right, sure.
They
Sure,
just
that
came
was
down straight
Sure,
down
that's
Front
just a
Street,
clean
down
shot
Main
there. You
Street.
know, that was just so. It really wasn't as difficult as it might appear, because the way we know it now is we see a big bank there.
Yeah, that was
a big
all
house.
flat land.
That was
then.
all flat land. It was all flat.
But there was houses there.
Hell, the church. I told you the church was right across the street from the store.
Yeah.
They just pulled it out in Main Street. And
There was two
brought it
houses
down.
there where Wagner's lived in David Chambers' place. And then the other house there where we lived originally when I was born.
Well, there must have been a vacant spot between two, or they tore a house down or something.
Does anybody know the date that the original highway was formed? I mean, was made.
I have no idea.
That was the first macadam highway was. Well,
You mean the cement road?
Yeah. When that road was laid out.
Oh, originally you mean?
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I would say that the cement road between Lancaster and Harrisburg, the Harrisburg Pike,
Yeah.
was built around after the First World War, 1919.
you mean it was
It was
cemented?
It was cemented. It was
It was
dirt road
cemented.
before that. It was.
Cobblestones, dust, dirt, cinders, you name it.
I remember when Holland Street, or now Prospect Street, was stone. Because cars used to go out there and the dust used to fly up like crazy.
And Prospect going out there, I drove one of Kendick Brothers Model T Ford touring cars, and had a bunch of kids in going out Prospect, and the stones were flying and damn near upset the thing. Out to Hostaders.
The
Yeah,
Hosteders swimming.
Swimming. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got some tapes of that, some slides of that out at Hostaders, but they'd all be more interested in just family stuff, you know. Of course, there's some pretty girls in there.
We used to go camping back in the back meadow
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, we
Oh,
camped.
my
You
God.
used to have a tent out there all summer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Go back there and
Before
camp,
we
fish,
were down in
swim,
Maryland,
spend overnight.
we had two tents, a kitchen tent and a sleeping tent. And I had a boat out there. I got some slides of the kids riding newcomers' ponies. Those kids are only this high, you know.
Well, you better keep it going. We're going to run out of film.
And now they're all, well, what else do you want to talk
I
about?
don't know. You got all your parts covered there pretty good? I think we're going to have to wait till next week to do the slides. He's losing his breath, and I'm wearing out. Losing his voice. Yeah, we
Well,
will.
we did tell you about the band halls.
Well,
You know, before Kendick Brothers had, you know who had the implement shop before Kendick Brothers had it in the old wooden building? Norm Bear, Barney Bear.
Barney Bear.
Barney Bear had one of the first cars in town. He had a 1912 Ford Roadster. Jake Newcomer had a 1909 or 1910 Ford touring car.
Who's Jake Newcomer? The farmer?
Oscar Newcomer's daddy lived next door to us.
Yeah.
Don't you remember Oscar?
Jake Newcomer,
Jake
yeah. That's
Newcomer.
what I asked you, the Mennonite farmer.
Yeah, yeah. And Doc Kendick maybe had one before that, but he had a 1914 Buick touring car. And Ed Myers, I forget what Ed had. But in the teens, and the early 20s, her transformed a Packard into a delivery truck. And I'm not sure what year that would have been, but I think it would have been in the 20s. Because before that, twice a week they'd go around in a wagon, a butcher wagon, and a horse. You know?
Well, they did that after World War II.
Yeah,
Did they?
I remember
Yeah.
I remember the butcher wagon with the horse.
When me and June were married and lived up here on top of the barber shop, and that was 1948.
And they came out then, yeah.
I could hear that horse clopping over that bridge every certain mornings.
I wouldn't have thought that would have been that.
He'd have his door-to-door delivery. And I don't know what year he stopped, but I know it was 48, 49. He still had a horse and wagon delivering meats. John Herr. Well, when I was a kid, were you along when we seen him butcher over there?
Oh yeah, I
No,
often
not
saw
you.
Oh, but I often saw.
They had a bunch of us kids in one time. We watched him butcher the steer and watch him butcher the pig. How they done it from beginning to end.
And they used to, in Christmas and over the holidays, used to have the electric trains. You remember going in the living
Oh
room?
yeah. John. Oh, he was great.
And
for
he had a big one of those standard gauge trains. You know, it was much bigger than the normal electric trains. Used to have it in the living room there.
Yeah, John always had a big train thing. Yeah, I remember that horse and he used to come by the house and give us free hot dogs when I was a kid. When we were married, me and June were married, even we had children, he used to come to the front and we'd get meat off of
Do
him.
you guys remember John Aston?
Yeah, up here at the corner.
No, that was Frank Aston.
Frank Aston.
Frank Aston
I
and
knew Frank.
Frank and his wife raised
Wendy.
Wendy Hamill.
Yeah.
Lloyd Hamill. Okay, John Aston, Frank Aston's brother, lived out there in a house at Shank, or Chickies Road, I guess, whatever you call it, and Spooky Nook now, on the southwest intersection where Earl Culp used to live.
Yeah.
You remember a house standing there?
Old house. Old
Old house.
Yeah.
That's where John Aston lived. And John Aston worked very little in his life. He fished and he hunted and he trapped. Did you ever hear about that?
No.
He'd shoot 20, 30, 40 rabbits a day and sell them. And he trapped and had furs and sell them. And he had a dip net that was about, I'd say 10 foot, maybe not that big, but 6 foot at least square. And he'd put up at Johnny Hawes's where we went swimming. He'd put that down in the creek and had bread all rolled up and bait, you know. And he'd lift it up. He'd have a half a bushel of fish, and he'd sell fish, and he'd sell all kind of game, and furs. And when he had a $10 bill in his pocket, he had a safety pin on, so he's sure nobody'd take it. Anything less than that, he didn't bother with the safety pin. If these old guys were around today, they can tell you the same damn thing. That's unbelievable, you know.
Yeah, well, that's the way Clayton Bully Strickler were. Old Bully was always drinking, giving us a hard time up at the swimming hole. Clayton was a nice and sedate man.
Now, I'll tell you something you didn't know, too. The Slugga Band was organized in 1896. Old Aaron Teller Boobies.
Yeah, I
What
can't
was
think-
his name?
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
Well, anyhow,
Yeah,
I'll think of it after a while.
that was just a bar then.
He bought new uniforms for the Montjoy band and instruments, and the Salunga outfit bought the uniforms and the old band instruments from. I thought I had it from the Montjoy band.
Well, Jake Brown used to have the band in Mountjoy. Does that
That's
sound?
later on.
Oh, okay.
That's later on. And this band, when it was formed, I'll read a couple names off. You'll get a kick out of it.
Salunga Band?
Salunga Band, 1896. Al Keller played trombone. You didn't know Philip Kepperly. He played alto. Truman Dissinger played an alto. Dallas Wademan played a cornet. John Way and Frank Way played cornet. Alan played clarinet, my brother. Bill Haberger played alto. Right? Well, Oliver Heisey, the guy done all our cement work around here, played trombone.
I never knew that.
Bert Heaston played baritone and valve trombone. I remember him playing that. And my Uncle Bill played bass. John Wademan played bass drum, about kickies. And, of course, my daddy was a director. And Guy Habecker played flute. Who else is on? Amos Spoon Schneider. You ever hear that name? Well, Amos Spoon Schneider lived out in a little house across the road from Frank Eshelman's farm. A little old house in there. Amos Schneider played cymbals. Irvin Kepperling played trombone. Art Diffenderfer played bass. Oh, I think he played bass. No, that was Gene.
Gene Diffenderfer.
Gene Diffenderfer played bass in the 4th Regiment Band with my brother Eddie.
Yeah, he used to sit in his
Later
porch
on.
down there and has all his uniform and medals on, all up in through the 40s yet.
Had Eshelman played baritone.